Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. Hello, babes, and welcome back to the Chase Life with Kelly podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Chase. I have an incredible duo on the show with us today that are going to talk all about sex therapy and relationships and love and all the things that might make us uncomfortable, but we're going to talk about it. I want to welcome to the show Zander and Vanessa. Vanessa is a sex therapist and she is supported lovingly by her husband, Zander. They wrote Sex Talk, which is a New York Times best-selling book. It was launched just a few months ago. So I am so excited to talk more about the book and dive into everything. Like I said, that's going to make us excited, yet probably a little uncomfortable because sex is the taboo thing that we all think is a little exciting. We have our girl talk around it, but then it's like, oh my gosh. So welcome to the show, Vanessa and Zander. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to talk about all the things, get a little nervous and uncomfortable, but share all the good tips too. So we're here for it.
Yes, thank you. So tell me how you got started as a sex therapist. Like what encouraged you to go down that hole?
Yeah, interesting way of phrasing it. So we wrote a book called Sex Talks, and the reason that I am a sex therapist is because of my version of the sex talk with my parents. I think like most people out there, it was very uncomfortable, very awkward. And I had no idea at the time that sex therapy was a career, but I remember thinking like, why is this so uncomfortable? Why are my parents being so awkward? Basically, all that they said was, if you have any questions about, sex, you can ask us. But it was very clear that what they were saying is, please, for the love of God, do not ask us anything. We don't want to talk about it. And so that moment just really stuck with me as I grew older. And eventually I realized, you know what? I think I want to make a career out of this. I think I want to help get people comfortable talking about sex. And especially because once I started having sex, my own lack of conversation in my own sex life was having very negative impacts for me. So started putting it all together and thinking, you know what? I think I want to help people do this.
Yeah. So were you a sex therapist prior to meeting your husband?
I had just gotten started on that path. So I was going back to grad school. Like after we met, I decided to go back to grad school. I studied human sexuality in undergraduate, and I wanted to get that foundation in psychotherapy. I wanted to become a licensed therapist. So we met and I was starting that path. And Zander was very excited to be dating a future sex therapist.
a budding sex therapist. We were right in between, we were between that time where she already had the career aspiration, but was yet to go to grad school and start all the training and the licensing process. And so I thought it was really exciting. Like, hey, I'm dating this woman who wants to be a sex therapist. I thought that was super cool to tell all my friends because, then they, of course, would think, oh, well, you must be having great sex, right? Like you're dating a sex therapist.
Or you must be really good at sex.
Or
a sex therapist willing to date you.
Oh, there you go. That's a good reframe. That's a good reframe. But to be totally honest with you, I was actually really intimidated and scared because I was like, does this mean I'm going to have to work on my own sex life? Like, I don't want to have to do that. That sounds really awkward. Like, I'm a guy. I feel like I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to kind of lead when it comes to sex. And if she is wanting something more from me than I'm giving, like that must say something really negative about me. And so I was really scared. I was kind of like, okay, well, let me just try to do as much as I can so that maybe we never have to talk about it. And the reality is that it doesn't really work that way in any kind of long-term relationship. And so eventually we started having our own struggles, and it took me a while to get on the same page with Vanessa in terms of being like, yeah, we can talk about this. I can ask for help. We can work on things. And, yeah, who knew? Once you start doing that, all of a sudden, all these new doors open up, including starting to work with your wife and have a business together doing this.
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to back up a little bit. When you told your parents that you were going to start studying sex, and to become a sex therapist, what were their reactions?
They were shocked, definitely embarrassed, a little concerned, but I didn't really give them any choice. I was like, I'm an adult, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. And the really cool thing is that over the years, it has actually led to so much growth in our relationship. Like, we now feel comfortable talking to each other about sex. Sometimes they tell me things that I'm like, oh, okay, now we've like crossed a different sort of line.
Oh yeah, her parents get they're on our Instagram account sometimes.
Yeah, we're on Instagram at Vanessa and Xander. We have a whole highlight with my parents, like answering embarrassing questions and like us sharing our community's embarrassing stories with them. So it's been really cool to see that shift within them. And that's been a reminder to me of, hey, if I can get my parents comfortable talking about sex, and I can comfortably talk about sex with my parents, like, I think we can all do this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I love that. That's so interesting that you said that too, because about a week ago, I had my mom, I'll be 38 in a few months. And I had my mom come up here and I wanted to like talk to her about a lot of things, but I just initiated this conversation. I was like, Mom, sometimes like, I guess I'm hesitant to share things with you, not because, my mom's great. I talk to her every single day, but she's my best friend. And I was like, but sometimes I don't share things with you to protect myself, because I don't want to get the reaction from you that you're disappointed in me or something like that. Because disappointment's such a huge feminine wound. And I was like, so I just don't tell you things because I'm protecting myself. And but I was like, but I really think that there is some type of disconnect with our relationship. And I was like, I feel like if I could talk to you more of like a best friend versus a mom, then I think that would just help us. And she was like, okay, well, what do you mean? She was like, well, I'm sorry. She did say, I'm sorry that I have made you feel like you can't come and talk to me, and that, because maybe I'll be disappointed in you or something like that. She's like, of course there's still like, I am still your mother though, and I was like, I know, but there are just certain things that I've been experiencing and going through that I feel like, when I do share these things with my actual friends, yeah, they may give me a hard time about it, but then they start making jokes and they're just like, whatever, okay. But I feel like it would, if I shared the same thing with you, there may be more of this like looking at me in a different way, or, like I said, that disappointment. And I was like, I just don't want that. I want to be able to tell you everything, kind of thing. And anyways, long story short, she was just like, okay, well then maybe when you're about to tell me something, you preface it and just say, hey, I need you to be a friend right now. I need you to listen as a friend right now. And and she was like, and then I will put down the judgment. Everything. But I was able to share with her like the past few months of like, my love life and things that I've done that maybe weren't this best of choices for me and stuff. And I just felt this huge weight lifted off of me. And I felt so much closer to my mom. So I love that you guys have cultivated such a strong relationship too.
Yeah, it's really important. It's so powerful. And actually, that's one of the communication tips that we share in the book, is like setting the other person up for success by telling them what we want them to, like how we want them to meet us. Like, I want you to listen to me. We do this ourselves. Like, since we work together and we're married, sometimes we say, I want to talk to my business partner right now, or I want to talk to my husband right now. Or sometimes I'll say something like, I just want you to listen and not try to fix it.
Yeah, like I just want to vent.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll say like, I want your advice, so
give me solutions.
If we are able to share that with the person ahead of time, that can make communication go so much smoother.
Totally. I love that. Okay. So let's dive into the book lessons if we can, or at least some of them. Yeah, can you, because there's 5, correct? There's 5.
There are
like-
5 conversations. Yeah. So the idea of talking about sex, I don't think that's anything new to anybody. You know,
Right.
when you're up late at night and you're looking at incognito mode on Google, like Googling your deepest, darkest sex questions, like, why does he never want to have sex with me? Or like, how to fix a low libido? Are we not compatible? You know, you'll see that at the end of every article, like talk about it with your partner. But the articles always end there. They don't tell us how to do that.
It's like, good, just talk about it, as if it's so easy.
Yeah. And so a lot of us really struggle with, okay, I know that I should be, but what do I say? How do I say it? And with a topic as sensitive as sex, we're so worried about like, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want him to get defensive. I don't want my partner to like be upset.
I mean, it's a lot of the same things you were just referring to with your mom. Like, you know, you were feeling hesitant to share certain, you know, details about your love life because you were scared of judgment or scared of whatever. I think it can be exactly the same vibe in a relationship where you're like, well, we haven't really ever talked about this before. And you just go to that worst case scenario, like, oh, well, if we start talking about this, they're going to think that. And then, well, what am I going to do? And blah, blah, blah.
So we wanted to take this huge topic and like, okay, let's boil it down and make it very simple and practical. Like we're all about practical. And so we came up with these 5 conversations that we really believe are the most essential, crucial ones that are going to transform any couple's relationship, whether you are in a tough place right now and really struggling, or maybe you have a pretty great sex life and you're just curious about how could it be even better. So,
or if you are at the beginning of a relationship or even just dating, like being able to work these types of conversations into your, you know, first dates or, you know, first number of dates with someone is a great way to evaluate, like, are we actually a good fit when it comes to, you know, intimacy?
That's true.
Yeah, don't do all of them on the first date, but
don't do them on the first date. You don't need to do any on your first date. But I do think like you could absolutely read this book if you're single and dating and think, okay, I can see how these are important and how I'm I have an opportunity right now to evaluate all of these things up front rather than doing what most people do, which is like, we don't talk about it. We get in and 5 years later, we're like, oh, shoot, we don't like, we've never done any of this stuff.
So we have these 5 conversations. They're in a specific order and we really guide you through them every step of the way of like, okay, you're going to start here. You're going to share this. Then you're going to take this quiz and share your answers with each other. So we really lead you through it in a way that we think is going to be really bonding, really sexy, and really fun.
I love that. I love that. And so with those, if you're in a relationship, obviously you go through these 5 conversations like with your partner and you both go through this book together.
Yeah. So you can do it, you know, you can definitely read it together if you're on different timelines, which let's be honest, a lot of couples are.
Yeah.
Then you can read the book first and kind of initiate those conversations, or you could read it first and then have your partner read it afterwards. We wanted to make it really flexible because we know everybody's kind of in different places about this stuff.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. So what may be another tip, I guess, or conversation that you lead into?
So we can start with the first conversation. We're happy to like walk you through what all 5 of them are.
No secrets.
So,
Yeah, sure.
No gatekeeping here. So we wanted to make the first conversation particularly straightforward because the mistake that most people make is we don't talk about sex until something is really bothering us.
Right.
And then I'm jumping in with like, why do you never initiate sex anymore? You don't seem to want me. You're not attracted to me anymore, which of course is like just going to make Zander feel defensive and on guard. We have a big fight about it. And then we never want to talk about sex again.
Right.
So we do a completely different approach with the first conversation, which we call acknowledgement, AKA sex is a thing and we have it. So your only goal with this conversation is to get comfortable with sex as a topic of conversation so that it just feels like we can even say these words out loud to each other. So one of the really practical things that people can do with that conversation, and you can do it after you listen to this episode, is take a moment to think about one of your favorite sexual memories with your partner and then share that memory with them. So face-to-face is great. If you're shy about that, you can text it to them instead, but all you're doing is sharing that memory. Like, remember that trip that we went on to Mexico for our anniversary and we were in that hotel and that thing that we did? Like, that just popped into my head randomly and just a fun little memory to think about. And that's all you're doing. So you're not like giving any sort of complaints, like, why don't you ever do that again? You're not, no criticisms. You're not even like initiating sex with that. It's like, you're just sharing, like, that was a fun little memory that I had. It was fun to think about it. And it just starts to create this positive foundation of communication between the two of you, and helps your partner recognize, like, oh, sex can be a fun, flirty topic of conversation. It's not just something that I get attacked or criticized about.
Yeah, and that first conversation can absolutely be initiated by one partner. Say like one partner's reading the book. I think it's a great opportunity. You can start reading the book, start incorporating all the acknowledgement stuff that we talk about. And there's a good chance, I think, that after you get through that acknowledgement conversation, it would be a lot easier to bring your partner in on everything else, because you've set up a basis for this being like a fun topic. It's a safe topic. It's not something that's about to start a fight or, have one or both of you feeling bad about yourselves.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I love that. Does when you initiate those, like sharing the memory stories, does it typically lead to you guys having sex? Like, not necessarily you guys in particular, but like, does it, like, are you trying to get the person in the mood?
No, you're not trying to get them in the mood. Yeah, we're not yet. We're not using it to initiate sex yet. We're just creating this foundation of like, this is a safe topic for us to talk about. Just like maybe you reminisce about other memories of like, oh yeah, remember when we started dating and we had that like that crazy date at that little restaurant? It's like you're just reminiscing in a positive way and like bringing some goodwill, some good memories, some good energy up between the two of you.
Yeah, you're kind of trying to accomplish two things. Like the first thing is like many of us have had the experience of like either in the current relationship we're in or in a past relationship where there's been a big blow up around sex. And so we associate talking about sex with negative stuff. Like it's going to be this huge fight. We're going to break up, or at the very least, we just remember like the awkward talk we had with our parents. And that was really the last time we had a serious conversation about it. So on the one hand, this acknowledgement conversation is trying to break that association that like, oh, like sex and like alarm bells in your head go together. So that's the first part. But then the other part is that, there's definitely also going to be people whose experience is like, oh, well, whenever my partner says something about sex, they really just want to have sex. And so I'd rather avoid those type of conversations altogether. And so coming in with having this conversation without it being like, leading to it is also a way to break that association where it's like, no, this is a casual topic of conversation that we can have anytime.
I love that. I love that. And what you said earlier too about, I guess like ping ponging off my story as well, but just about like we create stories in our head based on, maybe that last time you had a sex conversation, it was when you're having the awkward conversation about the birds and the bees with your parents, that kind of thing. But I think, that kind of like struck me. I'm like, oh, maybe that is why because it was so uncomfortable and so awkward or, obviously sexual traumas and things like that have happened in the past. So maybe it's just uncomfortable things to talk about in that regard or, to bring up. There's a lot of fears. And again, it is that like, are they going to judge me? Are they going to criticize? Are they going to leave me? Are they going to think there's something wrong with me? I think a lot of us kind of have that narrative, that deep-rooted narrative in our head. I know I'm one of those people who has is there something wrong with me? Like I had a very, personal thing. I always had the story of like, I'm broken. Like I couldn't climax and I still have not during sex. I mean, just full transparency. Like I've been working on it, but I recognize like I feel like I need to feel emotionally safe, like really emotionally safe with my partner. And obviously I don't feel like I have experienced that fully and completely yet. So I've been doing a lot of work on my end, but I'm like, okay, the next time I'm in a relationship with someone or we're dating someone and we're exploring that, it's like, okay, Kelly, how can we be more confident and start having those conversations that we're going to normalize things? So
yeah, so that's actually jumping into conversation for pleasure. Like, what do we need to feel good? And I'm with you on that one. Like, for many, many years, I knew how to orgasm on my own, but I could not get there with a partner. And I faked it for so many years. And I had this added layer of imposter syndrome of like, I want to be a sex therapist. I'm like trying to study to become a sex therapist, and I can't even figure this thing out. And especially with female pleasure and orgasm, there's so many myths, so much misinformation, the way that we're taught to have sex as like male-female partnerings. It's very heavily emphasizing male pleasure. So there's so much that gets stacked up against us. So that'll be a good conversation to get into.
Yeah. I'm really excited about it. Okay. So what is number 3?
Oh, well, we skipped over number 2. Number 2 is connection. What do we need to feel close to each other? So this is a little bit of what you're talking about too. This is all about that emotional intimacy. Because a lot of people, we think of sex as just this physical act that we do with each other. But the reality is like physical intimacy and emotional intimacy, they're deeply entwined with each other. And like, we really can't experience one without the other.
I mean, you'd be surprised how many DMs we get from people of like, oh my God, we haven't had sex in forever. And then like you ask a couple of questions and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we've been in this like ongoing 6-month fight over this thing that happened. And it's like, well, of course you're not having sex. Like you don't feel emotionally connected. You don't feel emotionally safe with each other.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people in long-term relationships, we just start to feel like we're roommates rather than romantic partners. We feel like we're ships passing in the night. It's like you crawl into bed at the end of the night and your partner starts to pull back the covers on their side. And it's like, like, who are you? And, it feels like a stranger to you. And so we wanted to start with emotional connection of like, how do we feel close to each other? How do we feel connected all throughout the day, no matter what might be going on in our lives, so that when we are crawling into bed together at the end of the night, like we want to be intimate with each other because we already feel that closeness.
Yeah. So what are some practices that you guys do throughout the day to continue that intimacy throughout the day and that connection, I guess?
Yeah. And so a very practical thing that you can do here is practice gratitude for your partner. So I know everybody's heard about gratitude and we kind of like roll our eyes at it a little bit like, okay, sure, let me get out my gratitude journal. But gratitude, there was actually a study that found that gratitude was the number 1 predictor of marital satisfaction. Like that important, the number 1 predictor.
Wow.
And the interesting thing about gratitude is that it's free. It takes hardly any time. It's very easy. So if I see Zander, let's say I saw that he took the time to like unload the dishwasher. It takes me 2 seconds to say like, hey, I saw that you unloaded the dishwasher. I really appreciate that. So just taking those little moments to tell our partner, like, I see you. I see the things that you're doing. I appreciate you. It's having an impact on me. Like it makes your partner feel good to hear that. It makes you feel good to say that. It just like boosts the energy for both of you. And again, it's so easy to do, but it has such a big impact.
But it's so easy for us to forget to do that because like our brains are wired to identify problems. And we see things that are right but we ignore them. Oh, it's like, this is normal. This is right. Like, cool. I'm just going to move on to evaluating the next thing.
It's his job to unload the dishwasher. Why should I thank him for that?
Yeah. But like, there's also been research on, maybe you remember the stat. I don't remember it offhand, but it's like how many positive comments you want to have for every negative comment in a relationship.
Yeah. This was some really interesting research. They found that in healthy relationships, you need a balance of 5 positive statements for every 1 negative statement that you make.
So not even like negative, like a criticism of you individually.
It's even worse, actually. So that statistic was if things are in a good place. But if you and your partner have been like fighting a lot, there's tension, you feel disconnected, the ratio jumps all the way up to 20-1.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's an interesting little question to think about to yourself. You're like, okay, I criticized him because he put the dish on top of the dishwasher instead of into it. Right. But have I said like 20 positive things to him throughout the day to like counterbalance that one. For most people, I think it's going to be no.
Yeah. And I mean, I think most of
Yeah.
us can probably think back to like when we were kids and like, did you have a parent that maybe criticized you a lot? And like, think about what does it feel like when it feels like all you're getting is criticisms. That doesn't feel good for anyone. So I know it's easy to kind of look when you're in a relationship to be like, oh, well, like, those tasks are his job and these tasks are my job. And like, why am I going to be thanking him for doing that or whatever? But like at the end of the day, it's not a task or a job to be in a relationship. Like it's not a transactional thing. It's something we've decided to do together. We're supposed to be teammates in it. So even if it's stuff that's expected, there's no harm in being grateful for it, trying to give a compliment as much as you can.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I feel like that's like one of the practices that I do. Like if I'm in a bad mood about something, like all of it, like I will either, if I can, I'll like go out for a walk or something. And I am literally like sending gratitude to everything. I'm like, thank you for the crack in the sidewalk. Thank you for that beautiful tree over there. Thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And it really it actually does shift your vibration. Like I will be literally in a bad mood. And then like 5-10 minutes later, I'm like, I have a lot more peace and calmness running through my body. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm okay. Everything is good. So that gratitude really does help. But, also it's like you feel not just like appreciated, but you feel like you're needed in that relationship too.
Yes.
You're receiving those compliments. So, but I could understand too, like if it's that like 20-1, if the relationship is so emotionally disconnected in the, in such a terrible way, it's like, there's probably a lot of like resentment going on. And so to think of something to appreciate your person for, it's like, oh my God, no.
It's so easy. Hard. It's really easy in long-term relationships for us to just focus on the things that annoy us about our partner and frustrate us. Like, we do it to each other too. We're not perfect about this either. It's like, you put the sock next to the hamper, not in the hamper. But I think just having this continual reminder to like, I love this person. I've chosen to spend life with this person. They do a lot of amazing and wonderful, sweet and kind and thoughtful things. And like, we can make that effort to notice those things.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. And, just the encouraging, maybe more encouraging conversation versus critical conversation. That was also something I'm like having a romantic relationship with my mom. I feel like so many relationships, no matter what the dynamic is, they are mimicking each other. And that was something else like, I think that was the biggest reaction that I was fearful of getting from my mom is like that disappointment, but that like question of like, why would you do that? Like, what's wrong with you? And so kind of towards the end of our conversation, I was like, Mom, instead of, like, even as my friend, if I'm coming at you, as a friend, like that still may be what wants to fly out of your mouth. I was like, but maybe you ask me, like, why do I keep doing that? Or like, why do I keep accepting that type of behavior? Something like that. So it's more of like a question based out of curiosity versus like, well, what's wrong with you? Because that's it's so judgmental, and it makes me, it would make anybody be like, well, I don't want to tell them anything anymore. They really think something's wrong with me. And then you start believing that, over time, you just kind of start believing those things. So, you find evidence, the subconscious mind and everything. But I just love that. Just the encouraging conversations.
It is interesting that you're bringing up your mom a few times because we've been getting so much feedback from people saying, I read this book because I wanted to work on my sex life with my partner, but I actually realized it's just a book about communication with some next level communication tips. And that's another piece of this too. It's like, if you can get comfortable using these tricks and techniques, talking about such a sensitive subject as sex, like you can talk about anything after you read this book.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I love that. Okay. So we have one is the acknowledgement, correct? Or yes.
Two is connection, and 3 is desire. What do we need to feel excited about being intimate with each other?
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. And so this is another area where so many of us in long-term relationships struggle, and we have our own story with this. Like when we met, the fire, the chemistry, like it was so intense, it was hot and heavy. And we really took that as a sign of like, this is my person. It's so good between the two of us.
Yeah, it's just right. And that's not going to change, right?
Yeah. And then you get like a year or two into the relationship. We moved in together.
Life catches up.
Life catches up. We're starting to have a whole lot less sex. The sex that we are having is like started to become a little predictable.
Just a little.
And, we have that, like, we both had that fear that I think pretty much everybody's experienced of like, what happened to us? Like, what happened to this chemistry that we used to have, that spark that used to burn so brightly? Like, where did that go? Then it can feel very scary wondering like, yeah, are we not compatible? Do we, are we not actually a good fit for each other? Because desire feels so much harder to come by. So this conversation is all about, first of all, normalizing like that happens to everybody.
Yeah,
that's the normal path.
It's brain chemistry.
But from there, where do we find that desire again? Where do we create that excitement and that desire to be with each other and to experience all the amazing things we can experience with sex?
Yeah. So Zander, what are some things that you do? What are some practices that you do to make her feel desirable again?
Oh yeah.
Well, so I think the important thing here is that I think the thing that a lot of people are going to learn from this chapter is that there's no like one easy answer for, oh, just do this and then your partner will feel that. When it comes to desire, we all have different ways that we like to, that different things that will fire us up and different ways that we like sex to be initiated. That we like sex to be initiated and to get in the mood. And the problem is if we've never talked about it and we don't know what it is that our partner wants or needs, we very often, we see the world through our own eyes, right? We go, okay, well, this is how I would do it. So they must want that, right? And often it's like slamming your head into the wall. It's like, this isn't working. Like they must not want me. They must not like me. But the reality is like what works for me doesn't really work for Vanessa. And so it's a matter of me figuring out what are the little things that I can do that really get Vanessa fired up.
So one of the classic examples that we hear about from male-female couples is women are always complaining like, I'll be washing the dishes and he comes up behind me, grabs my boob, starts honking them like old school bicycle horns. And like, he thinks that's turning me on. He thinks that's exciting to me, but and then the guy, if you talk to him, he's like, I'd love it if she just like came up and grabbed me and like, just put her hand down my pants kind of thing. So it's like, he's initiating in a way that he thinks would be fun and sexy, but she's like, I hate this, get your hands off me. Like, no.
That's hilarious.
So we have a lot of, we wanted to make the book feel really fun. So we did a lot of like personality types and like models and stuff like that. So in this chapter, we have the initiation styles model. So it's very similar to love languages and kind of how, it's like how Zander was describing, if we don't know our partner's love language or we don't know their initiation style, we're likely doing it in the way that we would want it to be, but we need to learn each other's style. So it makes it feel really fun and playful to like read through the styles and like, oh yeah, I think that's my type, and your partner gets to know, oh, okay, interesting. I might not have thought to initiate sex with you that way.
Yeah. I love that. That's what I was thinking the whole time you were saying that. I was like, it seems similar to love languages and just really understanding your person.
Yeah. And it's also for us to understand ourselves too, because I think so many of us, we feel like, I bet if I pulled a random person off the street and was like, tell me how you want sex to be initiated, they might think like, I don't know. What are the options?
Yeah, we're like, I have a choice.
And so we love like giving these models and giving so many examples because when you're reading it, it allows you to say like, oh yeah, I like this one better than that one. Or, oh no, this one's even better than the other two.
Yeah, because I mean, the problem is we see, in movies and in TV, like we see a really narrow slice of how sex works, and none of the sex we actually see on TV is very accurate at all, right? And so you see it portrayed in the same way over and over again. Like, these two people, they just look at each other, it's on, they're tearing each other's clothes off, it's over in like 10 seconds, everyone orgasms, they roll off of each other. Like, you know exactly what it looks like. And so I think if we never talk about it, if we don't even know what options are available to us, we just think it's supposed to work that way. And it doesn't really work that way for 99.5% of people.
Oh, very specific.
That is not a scientific stat. I made that one up.
It's a big amount though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. That is so true. You're right. You have to learn yourself, communicate with yourself in order to be able to communicate with someone else. So
yeah. So a practical thing people can do from this conversation is take some time to think about like ways that your partner has initiated in the past that you liked. A lot of us forget to like look back at our sexual memories and our experiences and like look through them for clues.
yeah.
But you might start to piece some things together like, oh yeah, there was this one time that my partner, like they drew a bath for me and he was like, just get into the bath, like relax. And I felt super pampered and taken care of, so that's something so valuable to share with your partner. Like that turned me on so much versus somebody else might think like a bath. I don't want to get in the bath. Like, are you trying to initiate with me? Or are you trying to get me to clean up? Like, I don't get it. Right. So it's like, we're all so unique, but if you take a look back through your own memories and try to identify specific things that you really enjoyed.
Yeah. I mean, it might not even be things that were like explicitly a sexual initiation. Like it could have just been like, think about like the last time you had sex that felt super hot and like what preceded it, like how did it get started? Because like, say in the bath example, it may not have been that your partner was even thinking about sex. It was like, oh, you've had a really long day. Why don't you take a bath? And then one thing leads to another. And all of a sudden you're having really great sex. So that's a great clue of, so maybe for me, when it comes to initiation, like I like a more drawn out thing where, they're focusing on my body, on pampering me. So it's not even like, oh, do you want to have sex? It's like, like, let's do something really nice for you. And then, and it slowly leads to more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So let's go into number 4 is pleasure. You said
pleasure. Okay. What do we need to feel good? Yeah. So we talk a lot in this chapter. So the book is really meant to be inclusive for people of all orientations and genders and relationship structures. But we do spend a good chunk of this conversation talking about the orgasm gap, the reality that men are having way more orgasms than women in male-female relationships. And we talk a lot about how female pleasure really works. So one of the most important parts of this chapter is talking about intercourse in particular. So those sex scenes that Zander just referenced, women always orgasm from intercourse and like 10 seconds of missionary style intercourse, like 3 pumps and they're both good. So like
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
So most of us, like myself included, we get this idea that like, that's how it's supposed to work. Like that's what makes him orgasm. That's what's supposed to make me orgasm.
And we have this whole like baseball analogy of sex, right? Like, first base, second base, third base, home runs. It's like this obvious hierarchy of like, we have these other activities, but intercourse is the be all end all, right? So that should be the thing that we're always aiming for.
The problem is though, that the way that our bodies are actually wired from a nerve ending standpoint is that intercourse is not actually the most pleasurable thing for women. We actually polled our audience and 91% of women said that intercourse is not their favorite activity. So when you're having intercourse, you're getting stimulation in your vagina and the vagina just does not have very many nerve endings. All of our nerve endings are in the clitoris, just the same way that all of nerve endings for men are in the penis. The clitoris is getting very little action and attention during intercourse. So the comparison that I always like to make is that from a nerve ending standpoint, intercourse for a woman is like playing with a man's balls.
Like it's nice, which is nice. I might even get a little excited for like 30 seconds, but I'm certainly not going to orgasm. And that excitement is probably going to start waning pretty soon.
So, I mean, and it'd be really interesting to like imagine that we had this alternate version of intercourse where like men rub their balls on a woman's clitoris. It's like, okay, I'm getting stimulation of the part of my body that has the most nerve endings, that is like designed for pleasure. He's getting stimulation of a part of his body that like, sure, there's some nerve endings there. It might feel okay, but like, it's not his penis. Like, would we expect that men would love this alternate version of sex and like be wildly orgasmic? Would we make them feel bad of like, oh, male orgasm, it's just so complicated. Like it's
should have just had a ballgasm.
We don't do that, but we do like, we do create all these expectations for women, and that can be one of the biggest challenges for women to overcome. But yeah, just having the accurate information about how it really works is so important.
Yeah. Okay. So, you had said in the very beginning of our conversation that you had, you faked orgasming for a very long time. I've never been one to do that. And like, I mean, I do have a lot of girlfriends that have, but I don't even know how you would fake an orgasm. Like, I'm like, okay, like, I mean, yeah, you can like hear it and see it in the movies, whatever, of like what it's supposed to sound like and everything. But I'm like, is there something like, wouldn't the guy know that he didn't really do it?
No, they never know. They never know. But no, it's good that you never faked it. Like, for me, faking felt like a good option at the time because it felt like, well, I want to, this guy that I'm dating, like, I want him to think like we have good chemistry and it's like, it's easy between the two of us and it's just working. And like, I don't even know how to have an orgasm with another person. So I don't know what I could tell them otherwise. So like faking felt like a good option. And sometimes it even felt like I'm trying to like protect the guy's ego a little bit. Like, oh, I don't want to make him feel bad because I'm the problem.
And I imagine at the beginning, you probably must have assumed like, oh, well, like you'll figure it out eventually, right? Or like, if we keep having sex, maybe.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
But all that it did is it would get me into these positions where I'd get into a relationship with the person, or we'd be, a few years into it. And I'm like, well, now I've been faking for so long that I like, what do? I don't want to come clean. I don't want to, so it would get me into these really tough situations. So not faking is definitely the better option. But I just want to say for anybody out there who does fake, like I completely understand, the motivations behind it.
And and totally, by hearing you say that too, like I definitely understand the motivation behind that too and the intention. And on my side, that I wasn't, I can totally see that. And I know that I have like probably, demasculated a man, made him feel demasculated and just like hurt his ego and his pride a lot and I think that's where I was saying like the whole story of like, I'm broken. Like there was a relationship I was in for probably like a year and a half, and the guy was getting frustrated and he actually wound up buying me a vibrator. Like he was like, let's try and figure this out, but we didn't date for too long after he bought the vibrator. So we didn't do it for that long, but there was like a time, like, I mean, I don't know if everyone's going to be different here, but like my friend, like it takes a while. It's not like you put the vibrator against you and in 5 seconds you're getting off. Like, so, and it was like my first time. So I was just like laying there. And finally he was like, screw this. And he was just like, okay, I'm like, I need to have sex, like whatever. So then I was like, and then it's just like reiterating the like, you're broken. Like, let's just have sex anyways. Like, it's fine, So then it was like hurting me on the flip side too, So it's definitely, I mean, as we're sitting here talking, I mean, the communication factor is just so important and so key. And I think him and I had more of a mature and evolved conversation, we would have probably felt more, emotionally safe with each other. And then he would have understood, but granted, I didn't know. Like, I was just like, well, it's been like 45 minutes. I don't know. Maybe I am broken. Okay.
Well, I have to say you're not broken.
No,
like,
I'm not.
Orgasm is one of my it's one of my specialties. And I know it can really feel that way. I mean, I've worked with thousands of women and that's this, every single woman has said that exact thing. But, we do talk a lot in sex talks about how to be a supportive partner, because I think if couples are not talking about this stuff openly, like it is very easy for it to get into these tricky situations. And unfortunately, a lot of men do make it about their ego. It's like, well, I want to feel good about myself. Like, I want to know that I made you orgasm. And so you'll hear men say things like, oh, I've never had a problem with any of my partners in the past. And,
because that's so helpful.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what is really valuable about us writing the book together as a couple, is like, we talk about ways that, that men can be supportive to women. And we even share, some of our own challenges with orgasm. So it helps normalize it and helps men like learn how to be better, more respectful, and actually supportive partners.
Yeah, I think the challenge for men, for anyone, we've all been socialized to think it's supposed to work a certain way. And, as men, we've also been socialized to think that, we're supposed to give her the best time ever or whatever. And, like guys talk about that with their friends, there's sort of, jokes about that and whatnot. And so like when you think that sex is supposed to work a certain way, all your life, you've seen messages that this is what you do. You're supposed to be really good at it. You're supposed to, give her the best time she's ever had. Like, of course, you're set up for failure, because that's not how it actually works in real life.
Right.
And even if you did find, some trick that works really great for your last partner, like every woman's body is different. And that thing that worked great for that one person is probably not going to work great for the next person that you're with. So it's like, guys, like we need to deprogram a lot of that socialization, that shitty socialization that we've got around like, yeah, it's not all about me. It's not my job to make her come. Like it's our, it's a collective thing. Like we're a team in it. And so it's not about like what I want or what makes me feel good. It's really about what makes you feel good. And how can we do that together? How can I be as supportive as possible? So yeah, it's not something, it's not like I can just flip a switch and get, a guy to understand that, but it's a slow process of starting to realize, okay, what are the ways that this socialization is not serving me? How could I try showing up a little different?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So if in the event, obviously with that statistic of like more of our nerve endings are in our clit, not our vagina, and like it's more pleasurable in that regard. But guys think the opposite, of course. So like, what do you say? How do you have a conversation around that to be like, obviously like this is what I like, and to truly help the guy understand that, hey, focus more here.
Yeah.
Versus like, let's just having sex. Like, how do you have that conversation without them thinking like, is she trying to teach? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Like, again, kind of going back to what he said earlier, like he should know what to do. He's the man. He should know what to do, kind of thing. So like, how do we like flip the script but not make them feel like they don't know what they're doing, or they're insecure, make them feel insecure.
Yeah. This is why having a book is so valuable, because of course, like if I'm thinking, okay, I've got to go to Zander now and I have to initiate this conversation, like, okay, we need to talk. I need to tell you about the clitoris. Did you know this? You're doing it all wrong. Like that.
Yeah. I need to have all my facts straight.
Yeah.
I need to have all the information.
That's going to feel very overwhelming. But if you're just like, oh, we're just reading this book, let's read this next chapter. Oh, this section, the orgasm gap? Huh. Okay, we're flipping through this. Oh, I didn't know that. Did you know that? It's just like we keep saying in the book, you're like, just blame us. Like, oh, it's just Zander and Vanessa telling us this thing. So it like creates this objective way of learning the information. So it's not like you having to go to your partner and tell them all of that. So it makes it so much easier to go through. And again, I think because we each share our perspectives, it's like, a man and a woman in a relationship, like a lot of people are telling us like, my boyfriend, my husband, like he felt more comfortable like reading this, like hearing that there was both perspectives shared.
Yeah. No, I would love to read you guys this book. Like, it's so great. It sounds amazing. I'm like, I love this stuff. I mean, again, it was like, it's always been a very like socially taboo topic, of course, but I have also opened up a lot, and I never used to. I mean, it's funny. I watched last year I watched Sex and the City for the first time ever. Like I may have seen like some episodes here and there, but like something, you know, when I was going into college, that's like when it first aired. So, but I was, you know, watching the episodes now and I'm like, oh my gosh, had I watched it when I was 18 or 19, it probably would have opened up a world to me. Granted, I was watching it while I'm pretty much the same age as the women, like the characters on the show. So like they're in their mid to late 30s. And I was like, I felt like maybe I could probably resonate though more with them now versus how I watched it when I was 18 or 19 years old. But all the conversations that they were having back then, I was like ear muffing probably. Yeah. Virgin ears. I don't know what this is. So it is interesting, but okay. I love that. Would you say too, I had a conversation once with a gentleman and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, he's gone to like a like sex retreat and things, like has like kind of like a relationship coach and all this stuff. And he was like, he goes, my approach to, you know, really truly pleasuring a woman, and 9 times out of 10, she will get off. He was like, I go and I massage her and I actually do the like pleasurable things that are actually non-sexual first. Like give her a massage or like play with her hair, like do things like that to like they're already kind of in the mood. But he was like, but that's like what I'll spend most of my time doing those things. And then I'll start getting more, you know, handsy and whatnot. And and he was like, I swear it like works every time. And I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. I would say that there's a lot of guys that have just been like, all right, let's just go after it, you know?
Yeah. Men can be very like, they can be a little like task oriented about it. It's like, okay, we're getting down to business. Like we got to have the orgasm. Yeah. And like, you know, hey, sometimes if it's a Tuesday night at 10:30, it's late. There's a place and time for a quickie for sure. Right. But there's also like, there's so many ways to have sex. Like one of our mottos in the book is everything counts as sex. And so there's just so much to explore, so many different ways to connect with each other. And a lot of women will say like one of the most common pieces of feedback that we get from women for men is slow down. Like, I like it when you go slower and you take that time to tease me and touch me all over my body and get me so excited. So that's a good tip for the men out there. Just slow everything down a little bit.
Yeah. And I think guys can get really in their head about that because they get really worried about like, oh, well, like, but I need to be able to get hard. And once I get hard, then it's time to go. I can't lose my erection and blah, blah, blah. But like, just like Vanessa was saying in terms of like, you know, oh, like take your time and touch me all over, get me feeling good. It's like, for guys, like your erection is not like your sole responsibility. Like your partner is here and can help you as well. Like if you're taking your time helping her feel good, she can also take her time to help you feel good. Like you can each do this together. And for me, that was one of the biggest mindset shifts that really transformed our sex life, was when I stopped being so worried about me being hard. and like, because ironically, once you're able to stop worrying about it, you stop having as many issues with
You're
it.
hard all the time.
No, not true. Not quite, but yeah, like, yeah, once you realize like sex is a team sport, there's not, when you're having sex with a partner, there's not like an individual aspect to it. And I think so many guys get so stuck in that mindset that like, it's all about you doing it to them.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Okay. I'm going to throw in a wrench here. What about you're not in a committed relationship. You're maybe in like more of a casual or like, you know, a casual or like situationship where there's probably maybe some quite more insecurities maybe going on because you're not in that committed. You don't have that other safety net around you. So like having these conversations, I feel like there may be more fear that you're going to like, this person's not going to want to be in this situationship with you anymore. I mean, granted, it's a relationship in a sense, but I feel like maybe there's just a little bit more hesitancy because you're like, it's because it's already not a emotionally safe environment.
So that's a great question. One of the best parts of this conversation for somebody who's single are the sections about learning how to give feedback. So feedback is something that really trips us up. We get super in our heads about it. We think that it's, like we think of feedback and we think of telling your partner, like, you suck at that, stop, go faster, go harder. It just sounds really aggressive in our heads, but that's not the only way to give feedback. It's not our recommended way of giving feedback. But you can learn our techniques for how to give your partner feedback, how to kind of guide them to doing what you like in the bedroom. And this is a great way to gauge your compatibility. So if you're giving feedback in the way that we teach it, which is very sexy and fun and playful, and that person is being rude or defensive or getting upset, it's probably a good sign that maybe you don't want to be in the situationship with them anymore.
Right. So true. Yep. I agree. Okay.
Got you on board with that one.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah. I mean,
I think sometimes
thinking.
Yeah, especially as women, we're so programmed to be really tuned into our partner's experience. is he okay? Is he feeling good? Does he like me? And it's really easy for us to slip out of our own experience. And that even comes up with feeling pleasure too. But if you're with somebody who's not showing you respect, who doesn't seem to be that invested in your pleasure, that's not somebody that deserves to be having sex with you.
Right. Absolutely. I had a situation. I'm telling all my personal stuff.
We have a way of drawing that out of people.
I know. I'm such a transparent, I just don't care. But I had a situation where it was not a committed relationship, but the sex was so good. It was so intimate and so full of passion and everything. But outside of the sex, it wasn't we had some many times that, yes, it was very vulnerable and very connecting and all of that. And I felt really supported and safe and all of that. But then there were other times it wasn't. So it was very inconsistent. But then, I said, in the bedroom, hooking up with this person, I was wow, this is the most connected I feel with this person. And they would stare at me, gaze into my eyes. I'm are we actually making love right now? Yeah. But obviously we weren't. But I was and I remember saying something to him one time, and I was granted, we were kind of in an argument, and I was why do you gaze into my eyes if you don't want to be with me? And he was what kind of question is that? And I said, it's a valid one. I was if you don't want to be with me, why are you staring into my soul while we're having sex? That's the most connecting and most vulnerable physical action we can do as a couple, as a partnership. I'm why do you do that? And he was because it's very intimate. And I was I know, exactly. Why do you do that? I've never in my entire life met a guy who did not want to be with me, who stared into my soul like you did. Holy shit. It was such but I mean, obviously, you didn't really have an answer besides because it's really intimate. I'm why would you do that though? It's so weird. Not weird. I mean, I loved it, but it was why? It's still very confusing to me. But
yeah, the physical and the emotional intimacy, they can be hard to untangle sometimes.
Yeah, it was definitely. Okay, so 5. You have the 5th one. What's the 5th conversation?
Exploration. It's exploration. What should we try next? So this is another piece of advice that we've all heard. Keep it spicy, try new things in the bedroom, but most of us are not doing that. And
or we jump too far into the deep end with it without doing any of the other stuff. We go, oh, things feel stale. All right, we're
gonna have a threesome. No, most people just aren't doing anything new. And we get really in our heads about this too. You're in the middle of sex with your partner and they're want to try something new. And you're I don't even know what are the options. I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling creative. And then we judge ourselves. So this is a great chapter because we, again, give you tons of options. We give you fun ways for identifying which things you're open and not open to doing and how to actually try new things too. So it's a really fun, very fun chapter that's going to keep it feeling exciting and spicy and interesting for decades to come.
That is exciting. Yeah. Because I could see that how some people would go from like one extreme to the next.
And if you want to have a threesome, that's great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. But you don't need to do anything that feels like out of your comfort zone to keep it spicy. So again, to like make this one super practical, one thing that you can do after listening to this episode is just think back to if you're in a long-term relationship, what are some of the things that the two of you used to do together at the beginning of when you started sleeping together that maybe you don't do anymore? Because what we've found is that as couples go on longer in relationships, it's like what we do during sex just narrows down and down and down until it's this very predictable routine that we're both bored with. So trying something new or like keeping it spicy, it doesn't have to be something brand new. It could just be something that you used to do. And most people have something like that of like, oh yeah, we used to like spend so much more time doing this, or we used to like try different positions all the time or have sex in different places of the house. So just bring back something that you've done before, you enjoyed it, but you just haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we just like bring it. I absolutely love that.
Doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be a big deal, and like get some confidence doing those things, and then you can try other things too.
Yeah, because I mean that helps you create the story for yourself of, oh, I do new things. I enjoy doing new things. So I think especially in a long-term relationship, as you do more stuff like repetitively, you create that story of, oh, well, we just kind of do the same thing, or like I guess I'm not really open to new stuff. I'm not really creative. And so then it's like, well, if I'm not a creative person, how could I suggest something new? And so, yeah, this is an easy way to break that cycle, to tell a new story for yourself. So then, maybe next time you actually will think of something that you haven't tried before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, I feel like some people, let's say anyone who has read your book, now they have this like guideline in a sense of like, okay, like making sure that we're having all of these various conversations because they're going to lead to the next level, to that next stage. But for many of us, if we don't have your book, that kind of thing, it's like we jump around, we may go straight to the pleasure one or the exploration one before we even have that acknowledging conversation and like that real true open communication of like, well, what did we like, and what are like really having that true emotional safety, I guess, like with each other. So that's like, it's so helpful to have this. I love this book.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
That's awesome. We're glad to hear that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me think. Zander, you guys work together, but do you work with, like, do you have clients that you work with as well? Like, do you do anything like that?
So actually neither Vanessa or I have clients. Vanessa doesn't see clients anymore. I've never seen clients. I'm not a sex therapist. I'm just a regular dude who now has a lot of experience with this because I've been working with her for a long time. But what we do is we sell online courses and guides on our website. So a lot of like technique-based stuff, how-tos. Like we have like one of our most popular things is like our foreplay guide. So like how to pleasure a penis, how to pleasure a vulva. We have next level intercourse, which includes all kinds of positions and modifications, how to get in and out of things. So we like to get into the real nitty gritty, kind of like, we've done in this book with communication, of the nitty gritty of how to, because the reality is most of us haven't really ever been taught how to do this stuff. We just try to figure it out. We figure out a couple things that seem to work well, and we go, okay, cool. That's it. That's all we're going to do. So, that's what we do. Vanessa used to see a lot of clients, but she was getting a lot of people, a lot of repetitive issues. And it was like, how could we help more people? And so doing stuff online was really the best fit for us.
Yeah. So the book is all about how to talk about your sex life. And then our guides are all about how to have that incredible, really amazing sex.
I love that. I was creeping on you guys' Instagram earlier today, and I came across a reel where it was things that remind you of what you did the night before or something. And he had like a banana, and he had like something in the sink. I was like, oh my God, it's so funny.
Yeah, we're super active on Instagram. We're at Vanessa and Zander. Like, we love to just show up with our community and help normalize all this stuff. We use a lot of laughter and like humor in our work because we know people feel embarrassed and ashamed, and a lot of us have baggage that we come in with. And so we just want to help people realize like sex is supposed to be this incredibly joyful, beautiful, intimate, special act. And like, it's okay if you're in a place that you don't love right now. It's okay if you feel embarrassed or ashamed, but like we have all the tools and the resources and the techniques to help you learn. And not only that, but like feel excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say? So like you said, sometimes your partner is not on the same like level as you are in certain things. So what would you say to a couple out there that, you know, maybe the wife is, or the girlfriend is wanting to explore and have these more open, deeper, vulnerable conversations, and the partner is not open to that? Like, how do we touch into that?
Pick up the book and read the introduction, because you will hear our story of how we were in exactly that position. If I wanted to talk about things, Zander was not ready. So we've been there ourselves. And throughout the whole book, we have different resources for how to talk to your partner, how to get them engaged. If they're stonewalling you, then do this. If they're getting really defensive, then do that. So it's normal to be on different pages and on different timelines, and we'll guide you through all of it.
I love that. I love that. Well, amazing. Well, tell them one more time again where they can find you, and some of your courses, if you want to drop them, that's cool too.
Yeah. So we're on Instagram at Vanessa and Xander. Xander is with an X, and all of our guides and courses are at vmtherapy.com. It's my initials, vmtherapy.com. So we have the most popular things that we have are those foreplay guides, next level intercourse. And then we have challenges as well. These like 30-day challenges where you get new things to try in the bedroom, ways to like spice it up.
We have a sex version and a connection version.
Yes. So all kinds of fun stuff that you can check out there.
Yeah. And then finally, you can pick up the book at sextalksbook.com. We have links to all the main retailers, but if you come back to that page and fill out our little form, we'll send you a free workbook along with your book.
Very cool. I love it. Well, thank you both so much for such incredible information today and just being so open with us. But thank you for being here. Really appreciate
you. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at chaselifewithkelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.